My name is Matt Samuel, and I go to the Carrollton Marthoma Church. My passage was the devotional was about Genesis 3 1 through 21. Before I read Genesis 3 1 through 21, I kind of looked at Genesis 1 and 2, and it talks about God's creation. And that reminded me of a couple of days ago. I was going to work, and I usually leave around 6:30 in the morning. And that morning, I had put Chris Tomlin's song "Indescribable," and I was listening to the song, and that song talks about God's creation, how He created everything, and everything was perfect. And while I was driving, the sun was rising, and the sun's rays were hitting the clouds, and I was just thinking, wow, how beautiful God created everything. How the sun rose and it hit the blue skies and the clouds, and the way it looked. It was just amazing. The birds were flying, and the trees were turning green, and everything was amazing. And that's what reminded me of Genesis 1 and 2. And then it came to Genesis 3. And in Genesis 3, it talks about the fall of man, how sin entered the world. And so while I was driving and looking at God's creation, I heard a honk in the back of behind me, and it was a guy. Because I was looking at the God's creation, I kind of was driving slow in the fast lane, and so I moved over to the right, and the car came up next to me. It was yelling at me and screaming at me, and he decided to put his middle finger up. I guess he was telling me I was number one, I guess. But that was sin, and that's what reminded me of Genesis 3. How in everything that God created, sin entered. And sin entered in that moment, and sin entered in Genesis 3. And Genesis 3, basically, I'm sure everybody knows the story of Adam and Eve, and how they ate the fruit. And God wanted, told Adam and Eve, do not eat the fruit from this tree. Don't mess with it, because I've created everything for you. Okay, if you just listen to me, just follow me, just walk with me, and I will give you everything. Okay, all this that I've created, I will give to you. And so, what does Adam and Eve do? Adam and Eve all of a sudden decides, no, I don't think so. I want to do it my way. I think my way. I know you created everything, God, but we want to do it our way. And so, what happens? Adam and Eve eats the fruit because the serpent tempts them, both of them. And so what happened? God comes in and says, Adam, where are you? And it's interesting, and this is on the side note, but it was interesting how God called the man first. And once again, as a side note, men, husbands, fathers, we have a spiritual responsibility. God will call on you first one day, on Judgment Day, and He will call on you and ask you, what did you fulfill your spiritual responsibility? So I thought it was very interesting how God called Adam first. And it was interesting also is that, what did Adam say? Well, it was Eve's fault. And by the way, you sent that woman for me. Okay, so basically Adam blamed it on the women, on Eve, and also he blamed God. And that's what we do all the time as well. When things go bad, we blame it on everyone else and even God. Okay, so I thought that was very interesting. But what happened was, so God is like, okay, fine. You want it your way, fine, and you ate the fruit, fine. Because of that, and He talks to Adam. Everything that you do on earth is going to be tough. Your work, your relationship in marriage, you raising children, it's all going to be tough because you decided to do it your way. And then he turns to Eve and says, listen, during pregnancy, it's going to be tough. Okay, your childbearing is going to be very painful. You could ask my wife. Oh my God, it was the worst. But anyways, and that's what happened. But throughout all of this, you see the grace of God. Okay, because He tells both of them, I will be there with you. I know in one after He tells Eve about the having childbirth and the pain. He also says, the serpent will strike at your offspring, but I will crush its head. So you see the grace of God always there, even though Adam and Eve disobeys. And then what happens? Adam and Eve all of a sudden becomes shameful because they're naked. And so what does God do? He gives them clothes. I think throughout our whole life, throughout the whole Bible, you see the same thing happen over and over again. God commands one thing, the people decides, no, we know what, we're going to do it our way. And so then at the very end, God's grace comes in. And also you see that in our own lives, we want to do everything our own way. And God comes and sheds his grace upon us. And especially during Easter, that was the biggest sacrifice that God did. He sent his son for us to save us. And that's the biggest, that's the gospel. That's the good news, that Jesus came to save sinners.